Kimspiracy.
Welcome to the November 4th edition of Kimspiracy. I'm Kimberly Madison with this week's bad news. No, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. The title of this week's segment is Indoctrication. It's not a word. It doesn't exist until now. I made it up. It is the fusion of indoctrination plus education equals indoctrication. And every morning, sadly, that you send your children to school, you are sending them to a federally funded indoctrication camp that is designed to rob them of any desire to learn, any original thought, any attempt at creativity. They are being federally funded by the taxpayer to be little blobs of no original thought. If your state teaches Common Core or any of the derivatives that have evolved out of Common Core, because most people have a negative reaction to Common Core, so they've changed it. I think Alabama's changed it to, let me see what my paper says here, because it's long. Oh my goodness, it's long. The College and Career Readiness Anchor Standards. So that's what it's called in Alabama, but it is still Common Core. You need to know exactly what is being pumped not only into your child's head, but their heart. This is going to be the most personal Kimspiracy I've ever shared, including my career in radio. But it is so important. And if, I were deplatformed today, then this would be the one Kimspiracy that I would want to get out before that happens. So I'm going to be sharing some details about my own experience. I will be protecting the names of my precious sons who have become magnificent men. But I want you to feel desperate. At the end of this podcast, I want you to feel desperate to find an alternative that will enable you and your family to educate your children outside of the public indoctrication camp that public school has become. Now, out of the gate, this is not an attack on all teachers. All throughout my life and my academic career and my children's career, I have met some of the most phenomenal teachers whose names I will never forget, who went so far beyond their call to shape, to want to be a part of the natural curiosity of a young mind, and those teachers that truly saw that gift and that honor to be a part of turning on the light bulb in some child's mind. There have been so many of them, and they are so sadly mistreated. They're not paid enough. And then there are those who think it's important that they harass young children with their opinion of politics, and if a child knows who you voted for, then you're doing it wrong, FYI. That's up to the mother and daddy to explain to the child in the environment with which they choose how they want their child to perceive certain parties until that child is old enough to weigh both sides outside of school, from experience in their own life with people outside of a not federally mandated box that is for them to decide, not for you to plant evil seeds throughout their academic career. Now, I'm not saying that without any justification. Again, I'll go back to my personal experience. And when I look back now, I see that the school was asserting an uncomfortable level of control over my children. One instance is when they were sent home a letter that they were giving out flu shots. And if you didn't send back the letter and opt out, your child would receive a flu shot. Well, the police department had offered flu shots for police officers and their family. I opted out. The school gave my son a flu shot anyway. You don't just go stick needles in other people's children's arms without explicit permission from the parent. And in this case, the school did not have it, but they did not care. So my son received the flu vaccine despite my refusal. I can remember when they were young, all of a sudden one day they just jumped up and they start shutting down the TV and shutting down the lights. And they're in this frenzy to get to send the house into darkness at 7 o'clock. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, evidently it was Earth Hour, and they had been told to go home and shut down the house at 7 o'clock for an hour to save the world. I don't think so, homie. You know, send messages to my children to shut down my show or the lamp that I'm reading a book by, or holding the refrigerator door open because I feel like letting the neighborhood in on some cool air. Whatever reason, it is not for you to send my child home with instructions to shut my house down. I didn't like that. And I didn't like it when my son comes home and informs me that I've got it all wrong on Christopher Columbus. That dude boiled Native Americans to make soap out of their bodies. I kid you not, this was told to me. I will never forget where I was. I will never forget the emotional breakdown I came so close to having because there were so many words that were fighting to get out of my mouth at the same time. It was just too much. It was like a computer was just too many programs running. You're going to have to do a hard reset. They began feeding my children cardboard and charging me double for the privilege. It was so bad that I asked my son, I said, are you being bullied? Is somebody taking your lunch money, son? Because I'm spending $75, $85 a week for your school lunch. Can we talk? No, it was just whatever pyramid scheme that the Obama administration had foisted off on cafeteria workers to, if you want to get federal funds, well, you have to feed the children cardboard garbage that they don't eat and they throw it away. And I know this because there were many cafeteria workers that work in our school system who were so frustrated. So I'm not trying to attack the teachers. I'm not trying to attack the cafeteria workers. I'm not trying to attack anybody but the policymakers that have developed this blueprint of failure that is designed to rob this nation of innovation, original thought, because all Common Core is, and it's complicated if you want to get into the mechanics of it, but I'm going to make it real simple for you. It's to teach all of the nation's children the same thing, and no one can know more than they know, and everyone is equal in their ignorance. That is the purpose of Common Core. Imagine jumping into Uncle Rico's time machine and going back to the day before Gutenberg invented the printing press that led us all out of the dark ages, and then imagine burning his shop down and preventing his innovation. That is essentially the purpose of Common Core. On top of that, we have a record number of children who are on medication. They are pushed by many officials in the school, sometimes by the teachers themselves. So not all teachers' hands are clean, but they don't want children who think differently. They don't want the Albert Einsteins. They don't want the people to ask why. They can't. They don't have time to teach them because Common Core has set a set of standards that they have got to meet. And if they don't meet these Common Core standards, which are very narrow in scope because they use stupid methods, unnecessary methods, so teachers' hands are tied. But that is what is happening. Greta Thunberg or whatever, it's really sad that they have used this self-admittedly mentally challenged child to manipulate and propagandize. It's very Hitler-esque. Seriously. Remember the propaganda war posters from Germany? Look them up. They use blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls with Nordic features and braids. Well, hey, Greta, it's the same thing. And they're using them to rot the youth at the foundation. It started in college. It trickled its way through high school. It's now gone through middle school. And now they're over-sexualizing our elementary age children. They are teaching them to think that it's not weird to have drag queen story hour, that it's not weird for Billy to want to be called Betty, and to just accept it. And if you don't accept it, then you are a bad, bad person because you're trying to believe what your eyes and what everything else in life is telling you is the natural course of things, the natural order of things. And these little concentration camps are telling your child that their eyes are wrong, that their ears are wrong. I began seeing behavioral changes in my child that I did not like. He was withdrawn. His grades were failing. And I just knew by the Holy Spirit that I needed help quick, that I was in a crisis. And I reached out to a high school friend of mine who was a Christian psychologist. And I called him up and I said, hey, I'm in a position, I can't get my child to open up to me, but I want him to talk to somebody. I don't want any new age mumbo jumbo. And after my son went and spoke with this just lovely individual whom I will always just be forever grateful in my heart, it was his suggestion that my child be removed from the public indoctrication system and be homeschooled. And I said, no, I'm not going to teach my child to bail out. I mean, life is tough. Sometimes you get punched. It was the Rocky speech that you see on YouTube. This is me telling him, not everybody's going to like you. You got to toughen up. It took him 3 times. And on the 3rd time, he said, if your son were in the ocean surrounded by sharks, would you throw him a life jacket? And I said, well, I guess I'm a homeschool mom. So we started homeschooling. Thankfully, my state is friendly to homeschooling parents, and I was able to get out quick. I can tell you that on the last day that my son attended the public indoctrication system, he stepped over a used condom to get into the building. But my biggest regret about homeschooling is that I didn't start it at the beginning. Now, I'm not telling you to homeschool your kids. I am telling you to do whatever it takes to get your children out of the public education system. I am a homeschool administrator for a cover program. The parents that I speak to share universally one common thread. Their child is riddled with anxiety and they're either on medication or their teachers, their school wants them to be on medication. There is a crisis happening, and to these parents who say, well, I'm not equipped to teach my child. Well, you know what? You cannot do any worse because Alabama scored dead last on Common Core, whatever, these goofy, worthless tests that have imprisoned these teachers from teaching. The National Assessment of Educational Progress. Our kids are dumb. Okay? Thanks to Common Core policy written by people who don't teach, our kids are dumb. And every day that you willingly send them into the public indoctrication camps, you are allowing them to continue to dumb down your child. What are your choices? I don't know. Homeschool. Well, I can't homeschool because homeschool kids are weird. They're not socialized. All of these things that you think you know about homeschool are wrong, but you're going to have to find that out for yourself. But if you're going to make a change, you need to do it quickly, because every time a student exits from the public education system, they lose a lot of money. And there is a mass exodus coming. Homeschooling is growing at an exponential rate because people are seeing their children reject common sense, and they know they're not getting it at home. These ideas are coming from somewhere, and it ain't them. And every day you lose your ability to influence your child. And if you don't do it, someone else will. Maybe a Christian school or a charter school or maybe those are your options. Maybe you need to get together with your brother and your sisters and y'all all decide, hey, we're going to all pull our children out of public school, and who's going to handle the education, and somebody quit their job, and we get back to being a family and helping raise each other's children as a family, because we are in a crisis and it is not going to get better. And our elected officials, both Republican and Democrat, are lying to us. And the most profound statement that I've ever heard, one of the most, was given to me by a gentleman I highly regard in radio. And he said, I don't know what your question is, but the answer is money.
Kimspiracy.